The sun was setting over the alien planet. The soft glow of the twin moons reflected off the ground, casting long shadows and bathing everything in a silvery light. A young human named Alex stood near the entrance of the spaceship, looking out at the alien landscape. He had never seen anything like it before. The planet was wild and untamed, with tall trees that shimmered in the light and strange creatures moving in the distance. Alex had been sent on a mission, but his thoughts wandered. He was alone here, away from everything he knew. But his thoughts weren't just on the planet around him. There was something else. Someone. He had heard of the alien Catgirls before. They were fierce, mysterious creatures with cat-like features, with sharp ears, whiskers, and tails that twitched with every movement. But they were also known for their intelligence and agility, traits that made them both respected and feared by other species. Alex had never actually seen one up close, but he was about to. From behind a large rock formation, a figure stepped into view. It was her. The alien Catgirl stood there, just out of reach, her golden eyes locked on him. Her long, silvery tail flicked back and forth, and her pointed ears twitched as if she was listening for something. She was taller than him, with a graceful yet powerful build. Her skin was pale, almost shimmering in the moonlight, and her sharp features looked both beautiful and dangerous. Alex froze. He had heard stories of the alien Catgirls, but nothing prepared him for this moment. She was real. And she was standing right in front of him. For a long moment, neither of them moved. The silence between them was thick, almost suffocating. Then, she spoke. Her voice was smooth, but there was an edge to it, as if she was testing him. "Who are you?" she asked, her gaze never leaving his. Alex swallowed hard. This wasn't how he imagined meeting one of them. He had expected a battle, or at least some kind of confrontation. But there was something about her that made him hesitate. She didn't seem like an enemy. In fact, she seemed just as curious about him as he was about her. I'm Alex," he said, his voice shaking slightly. "I'm here on a mission." She tilted her head, studying him. "A mission? To do what?" "I don't really know yet," Alex replied, his nerves getting the best of him. "I was just told to explore and gather information about your planet." The Catgirl didn't seem convinced. Her eyes narrowed, and her tail stopped moving. "You think you can just come here and take what you want?" she asked, her voice low and almost challenging. Alex felt a shiver run down his spine. This was not how he imagined things would go. He had prepared for danger, for hostile aliens, but not for this. Not for the calm, controlled presence of this mysterious Catgirl. Before he could respond, she took a slow step toward him. She moved with a fluid grace, like a predator stalking its prey. Alex couldn't help but notice the way she moved, every step purposeful, every motion calculated. "Tell me," she said, her voice softer now. "Why are you really here?" He was caught off guard by her question. For the first time since his arrival, he felt unsure. He didn't have an answer. All he knew was that he had been sent to this strange world, but he had no idea what he was supposed to find. "I'm just doing my job," Alex said, trying to keep his voice steady. "I didn't mean to intrude." Her golden eyes softened slightly, but there was still a glimmer of suspicion in them. She took another step closer, and Alex felt his heart race. He could feel the warmth radiating from her, a contrast to the cool, alien night air. "I don't trust you," she said bluntly, her tail swishing behind her. Alex opened his mouth to say something, but no words came out. He was caught in her gaze, trapped in the intensity of it. There was something about her, something that made him feel both afraid and fascinated at the same time. Then, without warning, she whispered something. It was a single word, barely audible. But it carried weight, like it had meaning only for him. The word lingered in the air, and for a moment, everything seemed to stop. Alex's heart skipped a beat. He didn't know why, but the word she whispered affected him deeply. It was just one word, but it felt like something more, something powerful. He didn't know what it meant, but it left him wondering. Why had she whispered it to him? What was she trying to say? The cat girl watched him, her eyes now gleaming with something new, curiosity, perhaps, or maybe amusement. Whatever it was, Alex could feel it. He was caught in her gaze, unsure of what was happening or what was about to come next. But one thing was certain, this was just the beginning. And Alex had no idea what he was about to get into. The air between them was thick with silence, but it wasn't the kind of silence that made things comfortable. No, this was different. It was the kind of silence that made the hairs on the back of Alex's neck stand up. He had just heard that one word, and it echoed in his mind, replaying over and over, each time with a new layer of meaning that he couldn't quite understand. The cat girl, she was standing so close now that he could feel the heat radiating off her skin. It was unlike anything he'd ever felt before. It wasn't the warmth of the sun or even the heat from a fire. It was different, intimate, almost dangerous. Her presence seemed to fill the space, making everything else fade into the background. Her golden eyes locked with his, and for a brief moment, Alex couldn't breathe. She looked at him as if she could see through him, like she could read every thought racing through his mind. It made him uncomfortable, but also something else. He couldn't place it. "You're not like the others," she said, her voice low and smooth, like velvet. "You look weak. But you're here anyway." "Why?" Alex swallowed hard. She wasn't wrong. He wasn't built for this planet. He wasn't as strong or as skilled as the warriors he'd read about in the reports. He wasn't prepared for what he was facing. And yet, here he was. "I'm not weak," Alex muttered, trying to keep his voice steady. "I'm here because I have a job to do." The cat girl tilted her head, her eyes narrowing with interest. "A job," she repeated. "What kind of job involves you wandering on my planet? What kind of job makes you risk your life for nothing?" The words stung, but Alex couldn't deny the truth in them. He wasn't sure why he was here or what the purpose of his mission truly was. He had been given orders, but it felt like he was missing something, a crucial part of the puzzle that he couldn't see. She took another step closer, and Alex instinctively stepped back. There was something predatory about her movements, like a panther circling its prey. Her tail flicked behind her, the movement so fluid it was almost hypnotic. "You're just a human," she said, her voice dripping with disdain. "How do you expect to survive here? Do you think you're invincible?" Alex felt a chill run down his spine. Her words hit harder than any weapon could, and they left him questioning everything he knew about this mission. He wasn't invincible. He wasn't prepared. He had no idea how to survive on this alien planet. But still, there was something in him, a drive, a refusal to back down, that wouldn't let him leave. "I'm not invincible," he said, his voice quieter now, but with a determination he didn't know he had. "But I don't give up either." Her eyes flickered with something, perhaps surprise, or maybe admiration. It was gone before he could be sure. The cat girl stepped closer still, her presence overwhelming. She was so close now that he could feel her breath on his skin. It sent a shiver through him. She was dangerous, but there was something magnetic about her, too. "You're not afraid?" she asked, her voice a whisper now. "Not even a little bit." Alex stared into her eyes, feeling his heartbeat quicken. "I'm scared," he admitted. "But I'm not backing down." The cat girl's lips curved into the slightest of smirks. "Good," she said softly, as if testing him. "I like a little fight in my prey." She stepped back, her eyes never leaving his. There was something dangerous in her gaze now, something that sent a rush of adrenaline through him. He had no idea if this was just the beginning of a game she was playing, or if this was the moment where everything would change. "Tell me," she said, her voice low and teasing. "What would you do if I decided to make you mine?" Alex blinked, unsure if he had heard her right. "What?" Her smile widened, but it wasn't a friendly smile. It was predatory, like a hunter watching its prey. "You're in my world now," she said, her voice thick with power. "Everything you know, everything you've ever believed about yourself, it means nothing here. Here, you play by my rules." The word sent a chill down his spine. He felt it then, the full weight of the situation he had found himself in. He had no idea what her rules were, or what game she was playing. But he knew one thing for certain: this was only the beginning. And if he wasn't careful, he would find himself trapped in a game he couldn't win. She turned on her heel, walking away from him with the same fluid grace, her tail swishing behind her. "Stay close, human," she called over her shoulder. "The game has only just begun." Alex stood frozen, staring at her as she disappeared into the darkness. His heart raced, his thoughts spinning. What had just happened? What was she going to do next? He wasn't sure if he was ready for whatever game she had in mind. But there was no turning back now. And somewhere deep inside, a part of him couldn't help but wonder, maybe he didn't want to turn back. The stars above twinkled in the dark sky as Alex followed the Catgirl through the dense forest, his boots crunching softly on the alien soil beneath him. Every now and then, he would catch glimpses of her tail swishing back and forth, her feline grace impossible to ignore. She was ahead of him, moving effortlessly through the shadows, as though she belonged here in this wild, untamed world. Alex, on the other hand, felt like an outsider. Every step he took felt awkward compared to her fluid movements. But he couldn't help it. He was just human, with no natural gifts to make him blend in with the surroundings. Yet, there was something pulling him forward, something he couldn't explain. It wasn't just the mission anymore. It wasn't just the need to survive. No, it was something deeper. Something inside him had begun to shift. And it was all because of her. He couldn't deny the pull he felt every time she glanced back at him, those sharp golden eyes meeting his with such intensity that it left him breathless. He had never experienced anything like this before. And it scared him. They walked in silence, but the air between them was thick, charged. It was as if some invisible force was pulling them together, something neither of them could control. The longer he followed her, the stronger it became. She led him deeper into the forest, where the trees were taller, their trunks glowing faintly with bioluminescent light. Strange creatures flitted between the branches, their eyes glinting as they watched them pass. Alex couldn't help but feel like they were being watched, not just by the creatures but by the Catgirl herself. Every time she looked over her shoulder, it was as if she was assessing him, measuring him with those sharp eyes. Alex wanted to ask what was going on, but he didn't know how to put it into words. They came to a clearing, and the Catgirl stopped, turning to face him. Her expression was unreadable, but there was something in her gaze that made his heart race. "Do you feel it?" she asked, her voice so quiet it almost blended with the sounds of the night. Alex blinked, confused. "Feel what?" She took a step closer, her eyes narrowing as she studied him. "The pull. Between us." Alex's breath caught in his throat. Was she talking about what he felt? That invisible thread that seemed to draw him to her no matter how hard he tried to fight it. I don't know what you mean," he said, his voice betraying his uncertainty. She didn't respond right away. Instead, she reached out, her hand hovering just inches from his chest. He could feel the heat from her fingers, and it made his skin tingle. "It's more than just physical," she murmured, her voice laced with a mysterious intensity. "It's a connection, something you and I share, whether you want to acknowledge it or not." Alex felt a shiver run down his spine. He wasn't sure what to say. He had thought it was just his imagination, but now, hearing her words, he wasn't so sure. He was starting to believe that maybe this connection wasn't just in his head. "Why are you doing this?" he asked, his voice barely a whisper. "What do you want from me?" Her gaze softened just slightly, and for the first time, he saw a flicker of something human. It was hard to tell, but it was there. "You don't understand yet," she said, her voice quieter now, almost as if speaking to herself. "But you will." Alex wanted to say more, to ask her what she meant, but before he could speak, she stepped back, breaking the connection between them. The warmth from her touch, from her presence, faded, leaving him standing there with a strange emptiness. The Catgirl's golden eye studied him for a long moment, and then, she turned her back to him, her tail flicking lazily behind her. "Come," she said. "There's more you need to see." Without waiting for a response, she began walking again, this time at a faster pace. Alex hesitated for a moment, his mind racing. But the pull was still there, still strong. It was as if something inside him was telling him to follow, to see where this connection would lead. So, he did. As they moved through the forest, Alex's thoughts swirled. The Catgirl had said it was more than just physical. What did she mean? And why did he feel so drawn to her? Every moment spent with her felt like it was pulling him deeper into something he didn't fully understand. He didn't know what was happening, or what the future held. But one thing was certain, he couldn't pull away now. This was only the beginning, and whatever lay ahead, he was already in too deep. The Catgirl glanced back once more, her eyes gleaming with something unreadable. "You'll see soon enough," she said, her voice distant, almost as if speaking to herself. "The truth is more than just a game. It's our destiny." Alex didn't know what that meant. But the way she said it, the certainty in her voice, made him feel like everything had already been decided. And he was just along for the ride. The moonlight had a soft glow tonight, casting long, pale shadows across the alien landscape. The air was cool, and the breeze carried the scent of something sweet and unfamiliar. Alex could feel it, the lingering tension between him and the Catgirl. She hadn't spoken much since they left the clearing, but the silence wasn't awkward, no, it was charged. Every step they took together only deepened the sense that something was changing, something Alex couldn't control. He glanced at her from the corner of his eye, wondering what she was thinking. She had a way of making everything seem effortless. Her movements were graceful, like she was part of the world around her, not separate from it like he felt. Her tail swished lazily behind her, and every now and then, her sharp ears twitched, listening for sounds Alex couldn't even hear. They reached a small, isolated pond, the water still as glass. The reflection of the stars danced on the surface, making the scene seem almost otherworldly. The Catgirl stopped at the edge, looking out over the water. Her posture was relaxed, but Alex could feel the subtle tension in her, like she was holding something back. She turned to him suddenly, catching him off guard. Her golden eyes locked onto his, and for a moment, it felt like the world around them disappeared. "You're still confused, aren't you?" she asked, her voice soft but sharp with truth. "You don't understand what's happening, do you?" Alex's heart skipped a beat. She was right, of course. Everything about this situation, about her, didn't make sense. He felt pulled toward her in a way that left him breathless, and yet, he couldn't figure out why. What was it about her that made his stomach flip, that made his mind race with questions he couldn't answer? "I don't," he admitted, his voice barely a whisper. "I don't understand any of this." A small smile tugged at the corner of her lips, but it wasn't the mocking kind he had expected. No, this one felt different. It was as if she understood something he didn't, something he was too blind to see. "You will," she said cryptically, stepping closer, her eyes never leaving his. "But it will take time. And I'm not sure you're ready for it." Her voice was low, laced with something he couldn't quite place. Was it concern? Amusement? Or was it something deeper? Before he could ask, she reached out with her hand, brushing a loose strand of hair from his face. The touch was light, barely more than a whisper against his skin, but it made his breath catch. The contact sent a jolt through him, a spark he couldn't ignore. His face immediately flushed, and he stepped back without thinking, surprised by how much the simple touch affected him. She raised an eyebrow, studying him with a look that was almost playful. "Did I make you nervous?" she asked, her voice teasing. Alex felt his heart race, but he couldn't look away from her. Something about the way she was looking at him, the soft, predatory gleam in her eyes, made him feel both exposed and trapped. "I'm not nervous," he muttered, trying to sound confident. But his voice betrayed him, coming out quieter than he intended. The Catgirl's smile widened as she took another step closer. The gap between them was closing, and this time, Alex didn't step back. He couldn't. The pull he felt was too strong, too undeniable. "You're lying," she whispered, her face inches from his now. The warmth from her body was almost intoxicating. "You're blushing, Alex." The word hit him like a bolt of lightning. She was right, his cheeks burned with heat, and he could feel the blood rushing to his face. The truth was, he didn't know how to handle this, how to handle her. She was unlike anyone he had ever met. Strong, mysterious, and incredibly alluring. "I don't know what's happening," Alex stammered, looking anywhere but her face. She laughed softly, the sound light and melodic. "That's the first honest thing you've said all night." Her laugh faded, but the playful glint in her eyes remained. "You're not used to this, are you? The way I make you feel." Alex's mind was spinning, his thoughts a tangled mess. He didn't know how to respond. How could he? How could anyone resist the kind of connection that she was offering? Every part of him told him to step back, to maintain some kind of control. But another part of him, one that he didn't even know existed, wanted to stay, wanted to get lost in whatever this was. The Catgirl studied him for a moment, her expression softening. "You think you're strong, don't you?" she said, her tone shifting. "But strength doesn't come from holding everything back. Sometimes, it comes from letting go." The words hit harder than any physical blow. He felt something deep inside shift, a realization that he hadn't wanted to admit. He wasn't in control here, and not anymore. He had let himself be pulled into her orbit, and now it was too late to escape. "You're right," he whispered, almost to himself. "I'm not in control." She stepped back slowly, her smile widening as if she had just won a small victory. "No," she said softly, "you're not. And neither am I." For the first time since they met, Alex saw something different in her eyes, not just the usual unreadable intensity, but a flicker of something softer. It was fleeting, but it was there. "You've already fallen into my world," she murmured, "and there's no going back." Alex couldn't deny it. Everything he had once known, everything he had once believed about control, had just crumbled away in front of him. She had already taken something from him. And yet, part of him didn't want it back. The Catgirl turned away, walking back toward the pond, her tail flicking lazily behind her. "Let's see how long it takes you to fully understand that," she called over her shoulder, her voice teasing. "The real game is only just beginning." The jungle around them felt different tonight. The usual hum of alien life seemed quieter, as if even the world itself was holding its breath. Alex's footsteps were soft on the ground, the dirt damp beneath his boots as he followed the Catgirl deeper into the unknown. His heart was still racing, the blush from earlier still lingering on his cheeks. But it wasn't just embarrassment anymore. It was something more primal, something he couldn't ignore. He had thought he was prepared for this mission. He thought he knew what to expect. But none of the reports had prepared him for her. The way she looked at him, the way her presence felt both distant and near, as if she was a mystery that could never be fully understood. Every interaction with her pulled him deeper into a world he wasn't sure he was ready for. The Catgirl, her name still unknown, had a way of making everything feel amplified, like every glance, every brush of her hand, every word carried more weight than anything he had ever known. She made him feel things he wasn't used to feeling: vulnerability, confusion, desire. He didn't want to feel them, didn't want to admit he was losing control. But here he was, walking further into the heart of this strange planet with her, his mind spinning. Tonight was different, though. He could feel it. There was a tension in the air, something building between them that neither of them had acknowledged aloud. But it was there, thick and undeniable. She stopped suddenly, turning to face him. Her golden eyes flashed, intense and unblinking. Her lips curled into a slight, knowing smile, but it was a smile that sent a shiver down his spine. "Do you feel it?" she asked, her voice low and almost seductive. "The shift between us." Alex's throat went dry. He didn't answer. He couldn't. The connection had become more than he could handle, more than he wanted to admit. The more he tried to deny it, the stronger it became. It was like a storm brewing inside of him, and it was only a matter of time before it exploded. Do you feel this? She continued, stepping closer to him. Her voice was like silk, teasing, pulling him in. The pull. The need to be near me. Alex stood frozen, her proximity sending his heart into overdrive. He wanted to step back, to create some distance between them. But his body didn't obey. Instead, he found himself leaning toward her, his breath shallow. I don't know what's happening, he said, his voice strained. I don't understand what this is. Her smile widened, her eyes glimmering with something darker now. That's the point, human. You don't need to understand. You just need to feel. With that, she reached out, placing a hand lightly on his chest. The contact felt like fire against his skin, her fingers gentle but firm, as if she were marking him, claiming him in a way he couldn't comprehend. Alex sucked in a breath, his heart pounding. Every part of him wanted to pull away, wanted to resist the way she made him feel. But the longer he stood there, the more he realized he didn't want to pull away. He didn't want to fight this feeling, this pull that seemed to consume him whenever she was near. You're afraid of this, she whispered, her voice a mixture of amusement and something else. Aren't you? He looked at her, trying to speak, but the words caught in his throat. It wasn't fear, not exactly. It was something else. A desire to run, yes, but also a strange curiosity. A need to understand what was happening between them. What was she doing to him? Before he could respond, she stepped closer, her face inches from his. Her breath was warm on his skin, and Alex could feel his resolve crumbling. The distance between them had disappeared completely, and there was no way to ignore the electricity sparking in the air. I told you, she murmured, her lips brushing against his ear. This isn't a game anymore. You've already lost. Alex's breath hitched. The way she said it, it wasn't cruel, not exactly, but there was something undeniably powerful in her voice. A promise. A threat. He wasn't sure which. But it made his knees feel weak, his mind racing with thoughts he couldn't control. He opened his mouth to say something, anything, but before he could speak, she placed a finger gently against his lips, silencing him. The simple touch was enough to send a jolt through him, enough to make him freeze. Sure, she whispered. Don't say anything. You'll understand soon enough. And in that moment, it hit him like a tidal wave. This wasn't just about survival anymore. This wasn't about the mission. It wasn't even about what was happening between them physically. This was something far more dangerous. It was about power. And control. And the way she had completely unraveled him without even trying. You've already fallen, she continued, her voice like honey. And there's no going back. The word settled in his chest, sinking deep. He was trapped, caught in a web he hadn't asked for, but one he was too far gone to escape. She stepped back, her fingers lingering on his lips for a moment longer, then let them fall to her side. Her golden eyes locked onto his, unreadable now, as if she was studying him, measuring him. Come, she said, her voice commanding. Let's see if you can keep up. The game is just beginning. Alex stood there, his body trembling, his mind spinning. She had broken him, piece by piece. And now, she was dragging him further into her world, into something he didn't understand. But one thing was certain, he was already too far in to turn back. The forest had grown denser as they ventured deeper into its heart. The air was thick with the scent of alien flora, a mix of sweetness and something sharp, almost metallic. Alex could feel the change in the atmosphere, but it wasn't just the environment. It was her. The Catgirl. Her presence lingered in the air like an invisible force, drawing him closer to something he didn't fully understand. They had been walking in silence for what felt like hours, the only sound being the occasional rustle of the wind and the soft crunch of their footsteps on the alien soil. Alex was still shaken from the moments they had shared by the pond, her touch, her words, everything had felt like a dangerous game. And yet, the pull between them remained, undeniable and powerful. The connection that had started with a simple whisper was now something deeper, something that gnawed at the edges of his consciousness. They reached a small clearing, and the Catgirl stopped. The moonlight filtered through the thick canopy above, casting a pale glow on the ground. She turned to face him, her golden eyes glowing in the dim light, like two small suns in the night. "You want to know what's really going on, don't you?" she asked, her voice soft but piercing. Her gaze locked onto his with an intensity that made him feel exposed, like she could see through him, into the deepest corners of his mind. Alex didn't answer immediately. He had so many questions swirling inside him, but none of them seemed to matter. Not anymore. The only thing that mattered was her, and the strange bond that was forming between them. "Yes," he finally said, his voice hoarse. "I need to know. What is this, between us?" The Catgirl's lips curled into a faint, knowing smile. She didn't answer right away, her gaze flicking to the dark sky above, as if searching for something. Then, with a sigh, she spoke. "It's not just a connection," she said slowly. "It's fate. Our fates were always tied together, Alex, long before you even stepped onto this planet." Alex's heart skipped a beat. Fate? What did she mean by that? He had never believed in fate, never thought that his life had some grand, predestined plan. But the way she said it, it was as if it was the only truth she knew. "What do you mean?" he asked, his voice barely a whisper. "How can we be tied together? I'm just a human. And you're not like anything I've ever seen." The Catgirl stepped closer, her movements fluid and graceful, like the predator she was. "You're right. I'm not like anything you've ever seen," she said softly. "But I've seen your kind before. I've felt your kind before. We have a bond, Alex. A bond that transcends worlds, races, and time." Her words echoed in his mind, and he could feel his pulse quicken. A bond that transcended time? Was she talking about some ancient connection? Had he somehow been part of something much bigger than himself? "You still don't get it, do you?" she continued, her voice laced with both amusement and something darker. "You think this is just about the mission, about surviving here. But this goes beyond that. This is about us." She paused for a moment, studying him closely. "I'm not just any Catgirl, Alex. And you're not just any human. We were meant to meet, meant to be together. Whether you want it or not." Alex stumbled backward, his mind racing to catch up. I don't understand." "How? Why?" The Catgirl let out a soft, almost pitying laugh. "Because we're both part of something bigger. I told you before, this isn't a game. You've already been marked. By me, by fate. And you're not leaving until it's all over." Her words hit him like a wave crashing against the shore, and he felt his knees weaken. Marked? By fate? He couldn't make sense of any of this, but one thing was clear, he was in too deep now. There was no turning back. "But I'm human," Alex said, the words tasting bitter on his tongue. "How can I be a part of this, whatever it is? I don't belong here." The Catgirl's eye softened, just for a moment, before the mask of calm returned. "You may not belong here in the way you think," she said, her voice almost gentle, "but you're here now, and that's all that matters. You are part of this, whether you want to be or not." Alex felt a cold chill run down his spine as the weight of her words settled over him. This wasn't just some mission anymore. This wasn't just about survival. He was tied to this alien world, to her, by something beyond his understanding. "Why me?" he asked, his voice shaking. "Why are you telling me all of this now?" The Catgirl's gaze turned distant, almost nostalgic. "Because you need to understand, Alex," she said quietly. "You were always meant to be here. And you'll soon see that everything that has happened, every choice you've made, has led to this moment. The connection we share, it's not an accident. It's part of a much larger story." She took a deep breath, her eyes flashing with something fierce, something untamable. "And now, you're part of that story too." Before Alex could respond, she turned and started walking away, her movements as fluid and sure as ever. He stood there, rooted to the spot, his mind spinning with everything she had said. Marked by fate? Tied to something bigger than himself? None of it made sense, and yet, deep inside, he knew it was true. His life had just taken a turn into something far more dangerous, and far more real, than he had ever expected. "Come, Alex," she called back to him, her voice echoing through the trees. "There's still so much more you don't know. But you will. Soon enough." He didn't have a choice. He had to follow. Because now, his fate was inextricably linked to hers. And there was no turning back. The forest seemed to close in around them, its dark, twisting branches creating an almost suffocating tunnel of shadows. The air had become thicker, heavier, as though it knew something monumental was about to happen. The weight of the Catgirl's words still hung in the air, like a storm waiting to break. Alex's mind was a whirlwind of questions, doubts, and emotions he didn't know how to handle. Everything had changed. And yet, nothing seemed clearer. They had reached the edge of the forest, a place that felt both familiar and alien. In front of them stood a massive, ancient structure, its stone walls worn by time yet standing tall as if guarding something important. The architecture was unlike anything Alex had ever seen, smooth, organic, yet deliberate. It pulsed with an energy he could feel in his bones, the same energy that had been pulling him toward the Catgirl since the moment they met. She stopped in front of the entrance, her silhouette framed by the dark sky above. Her tail flicked lazily behind her, and her golden eyes were glowing, soft yet intense. There was a calmness to her now, a certain finality, as if this moment had been waiting for both of them for longer than either of them could understand. "This is it," she said, her voice low and almost reverent. "The place where everything ends, and everything begins." Alex took a hesitant step forward, his heart racing. What is this place? What's really going on here? The Catgirl didn't turn to face him, but her voice was steady, almost comforting. "This is the heart of everything," she said. "The center of your fate and mine. The place where we first met in another life. The place where the connection between us was forged." Her words were like a puzzle, each one adding another piece to a picture that Alex still couldn't see. Another life? The connection between them was forged here? What was she talking about? He took another step forward, his pulse quickening. Another life? What does that mean? The Catgirl finally turned to face him, her expression soft but serious. "It means that we've always been connected, Alex. We've been through this before. And we'll go through it again if we have to." Alex's breath caught in his throat. I don't understand." "You don't have to," she said, her voice gentle, almost too kind. "You're not meant to understand everything right now. But soon, you will." She gestured to the stone structure in front of them. "This is the gateway, the place where the past and future meet. This is where we were always meant to be. Together." Alex could feel the pull again, stronger than ever before. It was undeniable now. This wasn't just about a mission anymore. This wasn't about survival, or being lost in an alien world. This was about something far deeper. The truth, buried beneath layers of confusion and fear, was finally beginning to rise to the surface. He stepped closer to her, unable to resist the pull that was becoming all-consuming. He didn't know what would happen next, but one thing was certain, he couldn't leave. Not now. The Catgirl took a deep breath, as if steeling herself for what was to come. "We were never just enemies or strangers," she said, her voice soft but filled with certainty. "We were always part of the same story. Your journey is my journey. And now, we finish it together." Alex swallowed hard, his heart pounding in his chest. "What happens now?" Her golden eyes glinted, her lips curling into a faint, knowing smile. "Now, you will finally see the truth. The truth about us, about your role in this world, and about why you are here." With a single step, she turned and walked toward the entrance of the ancient structure. Alex stood frozen for a moment, trying to process everything she had said. But there was no time for doubt. No time for questions. This was the moment. The moment that everything had been leading up to. He followed her, his legs moving almost of their own accord. As he stepped into the darkness of the stone structure, the air seemed to change. The energy around him pulsed, electric and alive, like it was waiting for him to step into his true purpose. The walls around them glowed softly, an ethereal light emanating from the very stone. Strange symbols, both alien and familiar, danced across the surfaces, like they were telling a story that had been waiting for centuries to be heard. "Do you feel it?" the Catgirl asked, her voice echoing in the cavernous space. "The connection, the pull of destiny? We are not just tied by fate. We are tied by time itself. Every choice, every step we've taken, it was all leading us here." Alex couldn't answer. He could only feel it, the pull, the weight of her words, the intensity of the moment. This wasn't just about him. It wasn't just about the Catgirl. This was something far bigger, something that transcended both of them. Something they were both a part of. As they reached the center of the structure, a soft hum filled the air, vibrating through the ground beneath their feet. The Catgirl turned to him, her eyes softening as she stepped closer. "It's time," she whispered, her lips barely moving. Alex's heart hammered in his chest as he gazed into her eyes. For the first time, he saw something more than just the predator, the mystery. He saw a part of himself reflected in her gaze. A part of something bigger. And in that moment, he knew she was right. The truth had been hidden, buried beneath layers of confusion and fear. But now, it was finally coming to light. He leaned in, his breath catching in his throat, and whispered, "What now?" She smiled, the answer in her eyes before the words left her lips. "Now, we begin."